Okay, hello. So, this is day 5 of the Journal of Rythmia, but I am now in my garage at home. It's about 3 weeks later, and the reason for that is that I took a lot of notes on the day, but I didn't really have time to process. So much happened on the 3rd and 4th ceremony nights that I felt like if I recorded it or spoke about it straight away, I would just be kind of rambling and I wouldn't have a lot of solid information to report on. So these are the notes I made on the day. When there's too much information to write down, or to quickly and coherently write down, I make images. So I draw some pictures, because that in itself, an image says 1,000 words. So there's a lot of stuff attached to these pictures, and then those pictures I've now written down into notes. And even these notes are really basic, and there's a lot of them. So I'm going to go straight through it. Talk about the experience that I had in the first part of the day at the morning yoga session, and then go on to the ceremony experience, because they kind of go hand in hand. So I think I woke up after like 3 hours of sleep, if that, straight to the morning yoga session with Sarah, who was this shaman who was leading the ceremony in that evening. And yeah, so she did this kind of yoga meditation mixture. We did a bit of stretching, things like that, and then we did this visualized meditational journey. And that journey was that you imagine you're on top of a mountain, the sun's shining and everything's glorious and great, and you feel brilliant, and there are 10 steps that go down the mountain into this beautiful valley with forests and greenery everywhere. So you start stepping down, and she's going through these different emotions that you feel, and as you're taking the breaths, you're imagining the steps as kind of like unlocking parts of your mind, and you sink into relaxation more. As you get down to the bottom, you hear some playing, and you look to the biggest tree that you can see in the clearing, and you find your inner child playing there, having fun. And so you go and join your inner child, and you hold hands, you sit down, and you're just observing what's happening around, and talking and just having fun with yourself. Then as the sun goes down, after you've had this nice experience, it's time to go. So you take your inner child with you, and you go up the stairs, and you kind of like meeting with your inner self. You do this mental example to then give you that emotional foundation for the ceremony in the evening. So by visualizing that, then sets the tone for you to actually find your inner child. What does that mean to you? What emotions and dreams did you have as a kid that you've left behind because get aside, work's in the way, I've got responsibilities and all this stuff now, money, and all these other things. So you kind of like link that together on that superficial level, but like I said, it creates a foundation for you to build upon later. So we also did another session, The Answer Is You, which is organised. It's a course organised by Reverend Michael Beckwith, and he has an associate or a partner called Paula, and she went through some things like, kind of describing what I said about the meditation and the yoga in the morning, but she also went through some dance moves. She was saying, if you ever feel down, or you need to just do a little stretch, and you could do these dance move, and it's just like simply just doing stuff like that. And the other one was to go like that. So you kind of like twist your body, do some basic stretching, but you also like dancing. And then the other one was like doing this. And the reason I'm saying that, you'll find out in a minute when I talk about the ceremony, because it came back a bit later on. But anyway, I'll get into it. So me and some close friends I met there, Elaine, Brian and Sarah, decided to all sit together in the same spot. We moved from the space we were in the other nights, and we went to sit right in the right side of the shaman main altar area. So it's right in the corner. We decided we wanted to be like, you know, in the eye of the storm, in the middle of it all. This night was the mature feminine reflection of the ceremony progression. So we had it's like the big waters, like the open ocean. It felt like that. So so we wanted to be in that main area. So just before the ceremony took place, we have like a briefing beforehand, and this time there was going to be a lot less music. For the first hour there's no music at all, which is very impactful. When you're going through these experiences, the music kind of carries you along. So the fact that there's no music is you're very much in your own head and you are leading it by yourself. There's no guidance in that respect, in the musical kind of tying you to the room. So yeah, so like I said, I really felt like I was alone in the ocean, you know, like at night time on calm waters. It's just dark and there's a deep ocean below you and you're just treading water, you know, that feeling. And it's quite scary, but it's also very expansive. But yeah, it can bring up a lot of dark things, which I believe is the intention of that. Before starting, I visualized having because I had this inner child with me all day, the one I found in the yoga in the morning. So I visualized this inner child going to the altar in the center of the room and going underneath all the crystals and the ceremonial objects and just being safe there, protected and safe under the altar. So whatever I went through, I wasn't going to like kind of put that onto the inner child, right? So one of the first thing that happens is this stuff with the teeth, right? So as I took my drink, went back to my bed and just sort of lay there and wait for the thing to set on, I felt my jaw start to really be like pressured, you know. And they say that when you, or Jerry says this anyway, and I've heard from other people now, that when you grow your adult set of teeth, you kind of take in what's happening energetically, like emotionally. The things from your surrounding environment are like imprinted, like coded onto your teeth. Just how, you know, if you, I'm saying this now because of the woodwork, if you spray some resin or something and you blow like a fan across it, you're going to see the ripples from the wind blowing in the resin when it's set, because you were constantly doing that while it was setting. While it was liquid, it was receiving that imprint. You see what I mean? So this is supposedly what happens with your teeth, and it's to do with a lot of childhood stuff, and you know, linked into, like I said, with that inner child journey in the morning. So I felt like my jaw was like being opened, and I leant back, and I was like really wide jawed. And I had this feeling, or like this vision of someone, and it looked like a grey alien type person. But I don't really like focus on these things when they're happening. I don't look who's doing it. You know, I don't really focus on the being or the incarnation of what's happening. I more just like you're in a surgery or in you know, having an operation done. You don't pay attention really looking at what the person's doing. You more like sink back and you just like focus in on what's happening inside, you know, deal with the pain however you do, and just, you know, just process it. You're not focusing on that person. It seems a bit odd to me. Like maybe you do that, but you know, I personally don't. So I have like an idea of who's there and what's happening, and I can see someone, and I can see a being there. But I'm not focusing on the details. So I saw this like kind of grey alien type head and hands coming in and doing something like with a little tool and stuff. And yeah, just like especially on the right side at the back, this pressure was like really building up and just like kind of sinking away at times. Okay, so right after that happened, after the surgery, like the dentistry, I got this feeling that it was just my responsibility to focus on my breathing. It was like here's your task. Breathe in and breathe out, and just make sure you do that the entire night, because that's what's going to get you through this. A lot of stuff's going to happen, and your mind's going to go into some crazy places. Just focus on your breathing. You're in your body. You have control over this body, and for it to work as an efficient tool through this experience, you need to be breathing properly. So my job was to remember, breathe in, breathe out fully, deeply into the stomach, and all that jazz. You know, so I was doing that, and then the altar in the center of the room started, it like became this like portal, because it was dead silent, and you hear every noise, and you feel things a lot more vividly. So it felt like the altar in the room became this portal for the like the astral planes, or like the energetic world, or what do I call it, like the spirit world, yeah. So I remember hearing these like kind of like crittery noises, like kind of like mouse squeak, bird chirping, creaky kind of noises. Not any of those three specifically, but like somewhere in between that, and it was like this little kind of critter type thing here. This one, like kind of like a dog with one eye, fangs, weird ears, and a tail. Came through this portal and was like kind of sniffing around, and I heard people like it was like so deadly silent at this point. And I remember like people kind of like heard this noise, and some people kind of like jolted or like stirred a bit, like I heard people like take gasps of breath and things like that. And it was so quiet, and it was like this, you know, this creature thing was like walking around the room, and it was like it was going to people, and you know, and just like, you know, if there's a tiger or something stalking you or coming close to you, don't look it in the eye, you know, just be steady and don't move, don't make any sudden movements. So I was doing that, and I felt this thing like come up like to my ear, like it was just waiting for something, like waiting for me to flinch or act out of fear or something, and then that would be like, you know, sinking its teeth in, sort of thing. That's the feeling I got. So I just, you know, kind of had myself to the side, really not moving, just breathing slowly, calmly. Then I had this feeling and vision of it like being rolled up into like it kind of being coerced into like a sack or something in the middle of the room. And I felt like the shaman were doing this, packaging it up and taking it out and sending it outside. And I heard someone like going outside and around with the, you know, Nico is, I think, the guy who's walking around outside. He doesn't drink anything, and he's there tasked with protecting the outer perimeter. So you have like the Maloka temple in the middle, and all the shaman are protecting that, and they're drinking the ayahuasca with you. And then you have one or two people walking around the outsides of the perimeter, like with the hammocks, kind of like an inner perimeter of the actual center, protecting that. And then you have, you know, so there's like security guards around the place anyway during the day and night at all times. So it kind of all linked up with that. And then, right, so really felt like there was all this like darkness coming in at that point. There was all these weird creatures. Like I saw this image of like a crippled man like getting up. Like I don't know if it was someone in the room or if I just saw it. I saw it in my mind anyway. I saw it as clear as day. But you don't have a distinction whether it's really someone there or if you're seeing a projection or some kind of spiritual entity or energetic projection from your mind going on. So I saw this like crippled person like get up, all kind of disfigured and contorting a bit, and then morphed into this kind of like guy with and most notably had like a triangular head, kind of like those people if you've seen like Silent Hill, but they have like big metal triangle heads. It's like that with like without the mask on or something, without the big metal. So like big triangular head, no eyes. It was just like a big nose basically. So and this guy was like 9 foot tall, came in from the front of the Maloka, from the fire pit area, walked up to the altar and kind of like did something or looked at the altar or picked something up or just did something there, and I heard like this big kind of like boom, like ground shaking thud happen, and then that just went away. That was something that happened there. After that, another thing came out of this portal. It was this big dark snake, this big like serpent. I drew a picture, like it didn't really have any kind of face. It was just like this big long curling serpent with a kind of big like lump on its head, like a kind of like how those I can't remember what they are, like not narwhals, but like walruses. You know, those specific type of walrus have the big like nose. It was like that, but like upwards. And this kind of like circled the room, and it felt like it was harboring all of the darkness of the world, and like all of these fearful things. So this was really like the battle I was having. Was like light and dark, fear and love, and I had some good realizations about this at the end. So but this is what I was thinking at the time, that it was like this dark, evil thing, or it was like you know, taking all of the darkness of humanity, and that's what it was carrying with it. It was the embodiment of that, and it circled around me, and I in my mind was like concocting some way for it to like go about its way, to be pushed off, and it was like sent off on its journey like around the world, like to loop again and come back another day or something like that. So I don't know if I just pushed away something I should have dealt with there, but that was what it felt like happened. That's what felt like happened. Yeah, so after that, I mean, there was so many thoughts and ideas that then came up, and I was very, very internalized. So it's hard to put words to this, and this was the struggle I had with making this. So I'll do my best. So in a previous night, I had this whole thing like with lots of spiders, visualizations of spiders, and you know, I actually had this spider essence come into me, inside me, and I had so many visions of like death, of things like shriveling up, decaying, turning to dust, ash, you know, and like specifically I remember this kind of like spider image here, of this spider, you know, kind of like turning over on its back and curling its legs up, and you know, you see there's probably some around here in the garage I've seen around, where they curl up and then they just kind of like turn into very spindly and hollow bodies. So I saw that happen to this soul essence that was inside me. So now it wasn't. It was like it turned into this decaying carcass, and I was like seeing so many visualizations of that, with like mountainscapes, you know, like everything turning to desert, and yeah, all stuff like that, loads of things like that. And I saw like the inner child that I had put under the altar just like turn to ash and dust, and was like all this like death swept across it, and it was really dark stuff. Like I felt horrible, you know. And I think like a lot of this was very filled with the heat. Like we were in that corner, as I said, we chose a different place, and there were no windows there, no airflow. It was a really hot part of the Maloka, so all that heat, you know, you don't really notice these things so much. You don't notice if you're hot or cold. You just notice the emotions you feel, and that's fueled by external stimulus, you know, what you see, hear, smell, feel, and all that stuff. So by this point I was, you know, rolling and tossing and turning a couple of times. I was looking to Elaine on my left and Cyrus on my right. Brian was by my feet. I saw Cyrus facing away from me towards the shaman, and when I looked at one point to my left, to where Elaine was, it was like she was gone. Her bed was gone, everything was gone. It was just an empty space in the corner, and I felt like, oh, like, where's she gone? Maybe something bad happened or something. But I thought, you know, I'm not going to worry about that. That whatever's happened happened. But I saw this empty space. I was like, oh, I have like a little kind of play area or something, some space to use next to my bed. And I felt like I needed to use that. I felt like I needed that because I had this very strong will, a desire to get up and move. Like lying here and doing nothing is bad for me. It's like you know, I need to do something. I need to actually get up and do some work, if you know what I mean. It's like I need this strength. I need this inner strength, this will to get up. And so it was really hard. It felt like the hardest thing to do ever. But I sat up, I got up, and I walked around in this space, and I was like, oh, you know, like just trying to to keep moving and not collapse and just like surrender to this awful feeling I had. So, and then I remember I got into the corner, like where the walls meet, like that, and I was just like this, like resting against the back of the wall, because my back felt so exposed, because that's where like this whole you know, spider leg thing had grown out of. I felt this like energetic wound had opened, like I was vulnerable in my back. So I like put my back to the wall, and it felt a bit better, and I was just like this. Oh. I think Cyrus said later she'd actually turned around and saw me and was just laughing because I was in the corner like this at one point. And I was just stood there, and in my mind, yeah, and I realised that I felt all this like exposed energy behind me, and it was like where these spider legs had been, and now this whole spider entity essence energy had died. It was just there, this raw energy again. It was like when it came into me on the previous night, it was the mode and the vessel it needed to take on to then allow me to realize that. Because, you know, I really don't pay much attention to my back. I don't think a lot of us do. You know, everything we do is in front. You pay a lot of attention when you do your workouts, you leave all that stuff and go about your day. You're really just focusing in front. You don't really think about what's going on your back or even pay much mind to your back. So all that kind of I realized that all this was here, or this space was here, and the attention had nowhere to go, because I don't have like a strong visualization of my back, if you know what I mean, if you get what I'm saying there. So the legs kind of facilitated that, but then it was like, you're not going to hold this image forever. It's just something that you needed to have it click. So while I was sat in this corner, I felt that energy, and it had to congeal into something. So I started feeling it congeal into like this like expansive set of wings. It was a set of wings. Like, I was just gonna say, I don't know why I'm not saying it. So it turned into these wings, right? And I was like imagining that they were like white, you know, because obviously I was like, oh, getting like wings, like some amazing angelic thing or something. But they kept like turning yellow, or like they kept kind of fading, and they were still there and they were growing, but like I was imagining them as like being white, but they were turning yellow and kept like turning like browny, yellowish tints whenever I envisioned them being white. So that was a bit strange, and it kind of added to this whole bad feeling, like, oh, I'm not doing things right, or something's not happening the way I want it to. So I had a lot of that, like all of that duality and choice concepts being thrown at me, good and bad, light and dark, and you in the middle, like choosing. So I felt like I started to build some strength at that point, because I'd gotten up. You know, I was realizing what's happening and visualizing things and kind of taking control of the situation a bit more, or like riding with it. I wouldn't say taking control, like riding with it, and not just letting whatever happen. So I went to the fire. I decided I needed to go out to the fire. You know, I felt like there would be some heat and strength there, even though I was already hot inside. I felt like I needed to go there, like it would be some kind of I felt hot in my body, but I felt cold in like my soul. I felt cold inside, if you know what I mean. So I went to the fire outside, and I remember I was like holding myself. I was like feeling very like vulnerable, you know, like and like feeling like all this energy is like bleeding out of me, like all of my essence was just like falling out around everywhere. So I was like holding myself like this, like doing this and like that. And I was walking around the fire, like I felt like a bit of a, like, you know, these crazy people who's always doing like that. And I walked around the fire a couple of times, and then I started like playing with the fire. I started like putting my hand through it and feeling, and like there was a log that I like kind of picked up and moved a bit, and I just like was playing with the sensation of like feeling the heat. And then while I was doing that, I started seeing my hands like overlapping through time or something. It was like, as I made the intention to move my hand, I was seeing a couple of hands before my hand going there with the intention. Like I was seeing the intention, my hand was there obviously, and I saw like a couple of past hands. So as I was like moving around, there's like this cascading, and you've seen it in like movies and things like that where they overlap the images, so you know what I'm talking about, that time-lapse kind of effect that's happening. And you know, people probably visualize that in movies because they've had it happen in these like experiences. So I was doing that like through the fire, and I had this realization that you know, if you want to be you know, granted all these like amazing abilities that we see and we talk about, you know, as like ascension and stuff, then you're gonna feel like you're on fire. So when this rapid pulsing energy is going through your body, when your vibration is raised so high that these things are possible, you will feel like you're on fire. You've got to imagine that this energy is going to be like pulsing through you so fast, so quickly, and it's going to be overwhelming. So to be able to contain that, you have to almost be okay with being on fire, if you know what I mean. And so I was like feeling really kind of weird and distraught, like oh my god, like I have to set myself on fire. And I was like, whoa, no, hang on, like calm down, you know, you don't have to jump into that straight away. And it's, yeah, so there was like that kind, I was like dotting on the edge of like of pushing the boundary out a little bit more, and seeing where I could go but not going too far as to get lost or do something silly. Yeah, so after that happened, I remember, you know, I was still feeling like the exposure happening, because that whole thing of like feeling like I would be on fire brought about lots of tension and fear again, brought me back to that place. I felt vulnerable again, and then I was like stood by the fire, and I remember I was like doing this in the corner at one point, just like trying to hold myself together, and I felt two hands come onto my back just by my shoulder blades, and I was like, I felt like massive relief, and it felt like everything like sunk back in again, and I was more like contained. And when I turned around, it was Syra, the one of the friends that I made in the beginning, one of the people who'd been there since day one with me. Out of the 5 people who arrived, it was all of us 5 kind of like stuck through the whole thing, like, and made quite a close bond throughout the journey. But she was there. She put the hands on. I felt better. We hugged it out. That was good. But I don't know if it was before or after. I just remembered that when I was feeling this vulnerability, she also showed me. She was like, walk around the fire and just do this, like, just let it go, sort of thing. Like, put your hands out and just walk around. And I did it. So I walked around, and I felt really bad still while I was doing it. But like, I had that kind of moment of happiness, or like that kind of you know, that glimmer of a shine over this darkness, right? So I was walking around, and she was like, "We're flying, we're flying," and so it was quite funny, and it kind of perked me up a bit after that. Yeah, so we're doing this like dance. I went back to the line because they were doing the second drink at this point, and while I was waiting in the line, I was like, you know, feeling this horrible stuff again start coming up. And so I just remembered what Paula had said in the talk earlier, the answer is you, and those dances, right? So everyone's in these 2 lines in the queues, and I'm just there going like doing these dances and trying to like do them to make myself feel better. So I didn't actually feel like dancing. I didn't feel good while doing it. I just felt like it was like something I had to do to keep myself together, you know. But that was I was laughing at myself while doing it. You know, I'm just in the queue dancing like that. Yeah, so I had a lot of like this, again, like these duality concepts coming up, good and bad. There's a lot to go into there, but it felt like I went back to like the source, like the oneness of the universe, the original thought, like the place where everything began, and it was a place of great emptiness and void, black, dark, empty space, but there's no space. It was just, there's nothing, but you're aware of it. So it's like really empty, and that's really scary and kind of but it's not, but it's like, it's really it feels like sorrow. That's the best way I can say it. It feels like sorrow. And so there was that, And there was also this idea of like the idea of creation, like you can create something, and it's like this is work. I was like, it's hard work, like, so there's nothing and feeling in this immense sorrow, or there's doing some hard work, but when you do the hard work you get the benefit at some point and you feel like the relief. So you know, which one's better? So I remember like going through all these concepts, a lot of stuff being thrown at me, and you know, still stuff I haven't like properly decoded. I'm going to be remembering it for a long time, I think. But I had this like image that I wanted everything to be like balanced. When I asked for my second drink, I said I want exactly half a cup, because it ties to this thing of balance, right? If you go too much into light, you will have to experience the equal of darkness, and if you're in darkness, you have to experience the equal of light. So it's like that whole concept: from light comes dark, and from dark comes light. The serpent that eats its own tail. Everything goes in a cycle, in a circle. So if you stand in the middle, you're able to like perceive this middle way. You know, there's the duality, or whatever you want to call it, the opposites, two opposites on either side. You're in the middle, and you can see all of both sides, and from that you can create a new direction, because you have two reference points and a third reference point of yourself, creating the triangle, so you can mirror yourself, if you see what I mean. Right, yeah, so after all that was happening, I was like going darker and deeper into this whole thing, into these waters, diving deep, you know, and they started up some like music, but they were like more just like drums and kind of, you know, really like tribal, all these really intense pounding drums. I was in the corner again on my bed, and I was just like kind of like flailing around. I remember I was like pressed up against the wall at some point, and I was just like kind of doing this, like banging against the wall, and flailing around, yeah. And I was like I remember I was putting my hands in my mouth. My throat was intensely dry, because you can't drink water. If you drink water, you're just going to throw up and feel horrible. So I already felt horrible, and I didn't want to feel any worse. So yeah, I was like getting my fingers and like putting them like right to the back of my throat, and like, I don't know, like scratching around or kind of trying to rub some part of the wall of my mouth. It was really strange. But I remember doing that, and like, you know, I'd been outside and I'd been like on the floor, like kneeling down by the fire and touching my feet and stuff like that. But you know, I was doing all that. And I remember I was like pushed right to the edge of that void. Like, so it was like I had nothing left. This was it. Like, you know, you're dead, or you're gone. Like, you do not exist. There's no existence. Creation does not exist. And it was like I was pushed into that space of absolute nothingness, and like asked, you know, what do you want? What do you want to do? What are you going to create? What are you going to do? And there's like pressure, immense pressure, to be in that place with no reference, with nothing, and just do something. What do you want? What are you going to say? And so I called out love, and I was like, you know, in the corner, like going, love, love, and really like, you know, love, like from this kind of deep sorrow, calling out for love, and that's when it started to turn around. You know, that I was held in that space for a while to test my like persistence of that, and it wasn't like just about me. It felt like it was more of like a ripple effect. Like this was having consequences elsewhere than just myself, just this body. Yeah. So then, after all that happened, I kind of like snapped out of it almost instantly. As soon as the lights came back on, and they were like, you know, they always say quite quietly and calmly, if you're when you're ready, please come back to the front, and we will discuss and close the ceremony. So I was already at the front, because I was sleeping by the front window, and yeah, I just kind of like woke up out of it straight away. It felt great, felt amazing. So yeah, we all have like an ending sharing session. Everybody talks, I went to the shaman at the front, and I had some hape, which is, you know, this like tobacco, which is snuff, you might know, as it goes, they blow up your nose, and it kind of feels like it clears out your, you know, inner congestion of your sinuses and things like that. So I felt like perked up again after that, and I went and had this long discussion with Mary Lou. Malehu is her like real name, but everyone calls her Mary Lou. And she's one of the assistants there, and we had this like long conversation about everything. But she said something that was very interesting about sort of like love and surrender, and like survival and fear. So she said that her master told her, when the gazelle is running from the cheetah, its survival instinct is fully alive. You know, it's running, it's got adrenaline, you know, the fear is driving it to move, to escape, to be free, to live, right? So that's what the gazelle's doing. You know, the cheetah is on the hunt for the food. It wants that food, like, you know, it's like almost a drive of love and passion to want to eat, you know, to feel that, to gorge on that food and feel that energy sink into you and be alive, to feel nourished, you know. So those are the two aspects. The cheetah's running with the survival of fear, the cheetah is running out of this like passion. And when the cheetah gets its teeth around the neck of the gazelle and sinks in, that's the moment when the gazelle knows that it's done. And you'll see, if you watch the videos, when that cheetah, or when an animal gets its prey, the prey stops running and kicking around so much. You know, a couple of seconds pass and it's just limp. It's probably still alive, and you know, you can often tell they are still alive because every now and then you get like another kick, or you know, you can see them moving, breathing and stuff. So after a couple of seconds, they just stop kicking and thrashing and trying to move because they know they're done. They know they're dead. The teeth are sunk in, and they just surrender. And so the message was that the gazelle surrenders to the cheetah at that point. It's been with the fear and survival, you know, the adrenaline, trying to escape, trying to be free, trying to run. But when it's caught, it knows it's caught, and it surrenders to the situation. And when that happens, something changes. And so the gazelle is then becoming one with the cheetah. The gazelle is being consumed by the cheetah and will merge with it. You know, anything, whatever makes its soul essence, its energy, is going to be set free, or you know, its body is going to be combined to nourish the cheetah. And that's a beautiful thing, and that is a reflection of love in itself. Certainly for the cheetah it is. And so there was like a very profound realization for me in that you know, you have this surrender that comes after the fear. If you surrender to your fear, and you know, it's like what other people have said, everything that you want, everything that you need, and that is great, is just on the other side of fear. So if you just accept that the fear is there, and move to it, you know, and move with it, move past it, then you will find all of the good things, all of that love and joy that you've been searching for. You know, from light comes dark, and from dark comes light. So it's this whole infinite cyclical nature of the universe, and it's we know that concept. It's quite superficial, but the more we let it sediment deeper inside us, the more we have the realization that, you know, it means something more than what it sounds like. So that was day 5. After that, you know, we had the same kind of exchange. We talk. I actually went back to the altar after this, and you know, said a little prayer, did a little bow, and retrieved my inner child. You know, like took back the essence of what was there, and I had the realization, because I saw it like turn to ash and dust in the ceremony. I had this feeling like, you don't need to have this visualization that it's a second part of you somewhere, some actual inner child. It's in you, you know. So you see inner child in you, and so I felt a great kind completion or reuniting with that after that point, and that was great. Other than that, we had some talks, everybody shared and had a laugh and some fun, and then we walked back to our rooms in the evening. So that was quite a long one. Like I said, it was a lot to take in, a lot to process. A lot of crazy stuff happened on the next day as well. It was a lot more upbeat and positive, and it was a great closing ceremony. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this, watch this. I'm going to recite my last experience on the 4th day, which was a good one, and I'll also have some reflections of what's happened since. Lots of amazing and cool stuff has happened since leaving Costa Rica and since leaving the center and going to Tamarindo with a few friends, but that's for another time. So again, thank you very much. Love and light to you. Peace. I'll speak to you soon.